On this edition of Independent Sources, filling the news vacuum, is the city's ethnic and community media ready to fill the news hole being left by mainstream media bureau closures?
I think the community newspapers will pick up where the dailies left off, and I think the dailies have demonstrated over time that they don't understand community news and they don't understand neighborhood news.
And K-Popular, the latest Korean sensation that's getting city residents dancing.
Not many people knew about it, but after Psy got really popular, and now people ask me, oh, so what do you teach? I teach K-pop. Oh, K-pop.
Those stories and more coming up on Independent Sources. Welcome to Independent Sources, bringing you news from New York's ethnic and immigrant communities. I'm Garry Pierre-Pierre. The Daily News' decision to shut down all of its bureaus in the outer boroughs came as a shock to some who described this move as the end of an era. That may be the case, but this move is also opening a vacuum for more community news that the ethnic media may be rearing and willing to fill. I spoke to Jahangir Khattak of the ethnic media website Voices of New York and the Manhattan Times publisher David Kiesman about whether these media outlets are up to the task. David, what kind of impact do you think the Daily News closing its out-of-borough bureaus will have in the city in general?
Big question, a lot of answers.
Okay.
The flippant answer, the first one is, I'm not sure what impact it will have on the outer boroughs because it was never a very good local community news source in the first place.
But they didn't think so.
I'm sorry?
The Daily News didn't feel that way. They felt that it was what distinguished them in the coverage of the city.
No, I know, but if you were to look at the Daily News Brooklyn section or Bronx section, especially the Bronx section, so you would have a story, two stories. It was never in-depth. It was never comprehensive. It was at one time many years ago, but it hadn't been. They tried to expand that into its own newspaper, having a Bronx section in the Daily News when the New York Post bought many community newspapers, and they tried competing on that level, but that didn't work either. So I'm not sure from an actual content and news source, all right, whether the impact will be very large, because there are so many other good community newspapers in the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, that they've always carried that weight in the first place. It's never good when people stop covering communities. It'll be one less place and one less source of people out there. But I don't think it will have a tremendous impact out in the boroughs. I think the community newspapers will pick up where the dailies left off, and I think the dailies have demonstrated over time that they don't understand community news and they don't understand neighborhood news, and they've never done it very well.
Okay. Jahangir, is this an opportunity for ethnic and community publications in the city?
I think it's a great opportunity for the ethnic and community media in the city. I think I largely agree with David that the mainstream newspapers like Daily News, of course, they had the coverage, but it was always limited. And the existence of ethnic and community media in these three boroughs that we are talking about itself is a living testimony to the fact that this media was already covering a real large part. And that might even be shrinking the space for the mainstream newspapers, which were finding it hard to cover each and everything. And that's why, because of the shrinking readership, especially of the print side, and expanding readership online, so the dynamics are changing. And certainly, it's a great opportunity for the ethnic and community media. I know a lot of community media is already doing a wonderful job of covering the many neighborhoods in the three boroughs. But I think for the ethnic media, which is already there and which is pretty well positioned as well to enhance its coverage. But how it increases that coverage is a big question.
Well, you publish a weekly publication in the Bronx. How well positioned are you to pick up the slack?
I'm not sure what slack we're picking up. Because what I have found with community newspapers is I'll see my community newspaper, competing community newspapers in other boroughs, and I'll read stories on the Thursday that they come out. And then on Monday the following week, I'll see those stories on the local cable stations. I'll see those stories now picked up by New York 1, by News 12, by the borough sections of the newspapers back in the day. So I don't know that there's that much to fill the void. The larger question is figuring out how we can enhance our community news service, not to fill the void of the daily news, but because there's so much community neighborhood news to be told. I think it's a tremendous mistake that the dailies have moved away from this, because I kind of thought that the business model going forward was not general broad news, but niche news. And whether that niche is a community, or that niche is a sporting event, or that niche is fashion, or whatever it is that you're looking for, I've always seen that as the future of newsprint and news in general. And so, you know, the bigger question is, by closing their boroughs, what does that mean for the future of the newspaper itself?
Well, what does it mean? I mean, Jahangir, has the mainstream dailies basically given up on community reporting? You know, David said that they never did it well, by and large. Is this the end of it?
I think he's right, that they never did it well, largely because we don't see too much diversity in the mainstream media either. The people who are covering different enclaves may not have enough, sources in there to cover in a way that a local community newspaper will be doing the job. So that was a handicap, I think, so to call it, like for the mainstream media always. And that was one of the reasons. And also, for many mainstream newspapers, the story had always been more on the negative side. Whereas the ethnic and community media, or just say community media, we have seen that they are reflecting truly on the life of a particular neighborhood or a particular ethnic group. And that you don't see in the in the mainstream media. And that's why these community publications have always seen a very loyal following. That's why these publications have been in business for years, despite not receiving much of the corporate advertisements that the mainstream media is already receiving. And they have very limited resources. But despite that, they have been covering the region pretty well. One reason could also be that they are just restricted to one region. So they have a better ability naturally to focus on one particular region and cover it well. But the mainstream media always had this, and it was struggling with it.
This is a city of 9 million people, and the vast majority live in the outer borough. So why is it that the daily newspapers cannot make a go at it? And then what's next for them?
I think, as I said, diversity. Lack of diversity is one reason. Second is their own shrinking revenues. Their readership is shrinking because of the same reason, that if you look at the space that each mainstream publication is allocating to, for example, negative news, and just assess that and compare it with the news which is positive, something more focused on local culture, traditions, some local fairs, something which is more reflective of the community life. Okay. So you will find that much of the coverage is going towards negative. Now compare that with the ethnic and community media. So you will see that majority of the publications' stories are more on the positive side. They are more reflective of the realities on the ground. Not just crime reporting, a murder here, a robbery there. Those are not just filled with those. And those are not the highlights as well. If you look at if you want to compare the metro section of a mainstream newspaper, what is their lead, and compare like the first page of a community or ethnic newspaper, what is their lead? You will see the difference right there. Okay. That's the preference in coverage as well.
I think reporting community news is hard. Now you speak about diversity. So in order to cover community news, you need people of and from the community, or people who know how to go into the community and where to look. And that is not easy. And you need quite an ethnic diversity on your staff in order to be able to do that. So that's a difficulty. The other difficulty and the interesting part is if you take a look at the Daily News' circulation and the New York Post circulation, which the two of them have shrunk remarkably, and you take a look at their circulation, and you can find this from the ABC breakdowns of where newspapers are distributed. And although I haven't looked at the numbers in a number of years, a majority of the newspapers for both of those publications are picked up in Manhattan. Home delivery is something way, way down and almost something of the past in terms of the Daily News and the New York Post. And then you take a look at the number of newspapers that are picked up in Manhattan and of the Daily News and the New York Post. They step back and they say, well, we don't have a circulation in the outer boroughs. So, again, what's the point of covering the news out there if we don't have a circulation out there? And because there's no home delivery, or the home delivery has dwindled so much, you don't have a newspaper sitting in someone's house where the shelf life might be 60 minutes, multiple readers. Now you have commuters picking up a newspaper. And we know by studies, commuters pick up a newspaper, and the newspaper has a shelf life of 30 minutes.
And then they throw it away.
And then they throw it away. So who are those people in Manhattan who are picking up the 250,000 of the 500,000 daily papers that are sold? So this is the direction they've almost been forced to. Okay. And it would take a major change in their business model to see that perhaps the reverse direction is the better direction.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. This is an interesting conversation, but we have to leave it there. David Kiesman, Jahangir Khattak, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Still to come on the show, a big victory for the city's Muslim community. Before that, Abby Ishola and Sarah Pizon have some other news.
Thanks, Gary. Last week we asked you what's happening in your community. Here's what we gathered. Sarah, what's trending now?
Hindu community leaders have expressed their disappointment over a decision by the city administration to exclude Diwali from its list of school holidays. Diwali is celebrated by thousands of Hindu, Jain, and Sikhs in New York City.
And the city recently approved 2 Muslim holidays, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The de Blasio administration recently announced it's going to observe 2 new holidays, the Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, which Gary will talk about later in the show. And this comes after a year of advocacy from the New York City Muslim community.
Wow, and the Hindu community is advocating for this for years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Hindu American Foundation actually partnered with a Diwali coalition of over 40 organizations with New York City temples, and they advocated not only to include Diwali, but also to include Muslim holidays and the Lunar New Year. So they were very disappointed that their demands weren't really met.
Wow, so we'll be checking out their advocacy efforts in the future.
Absolutely.
Residents in the South Bronx, North Brooklyn, and Southeast Queens have had enough of the city's trash. Many have banded together to support a new bill that would cut the amount of waste processed in those neighborhoods by 20%.
So just how much waste is being dumped right now?
About 80% of the city's waste is being dumped in those neighborhoods. And it's not just about the waste, it's also about the trucks that pass, the pollution that's left behind. And basically it's causing asthma for a lot of residents in those neighborhoods. In the Bronx, they have the highest rates of death from asthma. So it's pretty serious. And advocates say the situation is particularly unfair because it's happening in communities of color.
Wow, so what's next for the bill?
Well, it's been an ongoing 8-year battle to have this resolved. The city's Department of Sanitation says the bill could create dangerous logistical challenges for the city. But Councilmember Antonio Reynoso, who proposed the bill, is not backing down. He said his community cannot wait any longer.
Well, good, and I wish him luck, and we'll see what happens there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a new triennial exhibit at the New Museum that you might want to check out. It's titled Surround Audience, and its purpose is to highlight social media's impact on our image-saturated and hyper-scrutinized world and suggest how we need to better understand the complex and ever-changing cultural landscape.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
what can we expect to see?
Well, it's a display of work by 51 artists from 25 nations, and they all tackle how technology and capitalism all affect or have altered our vision of the world. So there's paintings, collages, video installations, sculptures, and they all tap into issues ranging from gender politics to racial inequity to the environment to terrorism. It's extremely thorough.
Wow, when can we check this out?
Well, the exhibit is currently going on and will continue to do so through May 24th, so make sure you check it out.
Sounds good. Students at one public elementary school in Manhattan are waving goodbye to homework. Teachers at PS 11 were instructed to stop assigning traditional take-home lessons. Instead, students are encouraged to play, read books, and spend time with their families.
Wow, that's a unique approach. So how are the parents reacting to this?
Well, a lot of parents are pissed. They're not happy about it at all. But the school has been researching different studies that have showed that homework is not necessarily that great for students. Well, too much homework. You know, it can be very tedious. Some students have shown frustration and exhaustion. So the school looked at those studies and decided no more homework.
So what are the parents doing about it?
Well, some parents actually, like I said, some have taken their students out of the school. Some have also created homework assignments for their children. So they're taking it very seriously.
No homework? That sounds like a dream to me.
Me too.
Well, that's it for this week. Be sure to tweet us at IndieSources, #Abby and Sarah.
And tell us what's buzzing in your community.
Thanks for staying tuned. The city's Muslim community recently chalked up a major victory with the addition of two of their highest holy days to the calendar of school holidays. The holiday, Eid al-Adha, will be recognized for the first time next September. Then summer school will also be closed for Eid al-Fitr in 2016. I spoke to Hassam El-Meligy, who is a member of the steering committee for the Coalition for Muslim School Holidays, about what this means for a community that's constantly struggled for acceptance. Hashan, please tell us about the significance of this victory, if you will, for the Muslim community in New York City.
This is for the children of the Muslim community, but also for every child in New York City and the United States. This is for the children who have been bullied in school and they were told that they don't belong here, or that they are terrorists, or they called Osama, or this and that.
Is it more about us than the children?
Sure. So we did it for the children to begin with. That's the aim. But as a good side effect of this, people will start to know from real, authentic sources about the truth about Islam and Muslims. So, for example, Eid al-Adha, which the schools will close for the first time this September 24th, is following the footsteps, literally following the footsteps of Prophet Abraham, the father of all the prophets. So they will learn about the commonality, not what divides us. What divides us is way less than what's between us in common.
Well, tell us about Eid al-Fitr.
Eid al-Fitr is the day that follows the end of the month of Ramadan. Muslims, able ones, should fast from dawn to sundown. And fasting is to purify yourself spiritually and also physically. So it's a way to make you a better person, not only for yourself, but for people around you.
Does it make the community feel accepted that two of its most holiest holidays have been recognized after a long battle? I mean, I remember this going back 10 years or so when the Muslim community was advocating for these holidays, and now it has become a reality.
Sure. So the slogan of the Coalition for Muslim School Holidays is recognition, inclusion, and respect. That is basically what the city did. Mayor de Blasio, we thank him for fulfilling his promise, and he and the city sent a strong message of inclusion and respect, not only in New York City, not only in the state, not only in the United States, but in the entire world. We hope that this message will show the world how do you deal with your minority in your communities to bring them to the fabric rather than expel them and alienate them, which creates more problems.
Is this the first place in America where these holidays are being honored with the school closing?
I'm kind of shy to say that, but unfortunately we're not. We're way behind.
Okay.
Many municipalities in New Jersey, in Illinois, in Vermont,
Michigan?
In Michigan, of course, in Dearborn have included the Muslim holidays.
Okay.
And again, it's common sense. The population, the cities or the municipalities should reflect the populations that live within.
Has there been any backlash from parents since this announcement was made? From non-Muslim parents, of course, I mean.
Sure. I heard about some concerns about extra days, but similar to any other holiday, it will be announced like 6-7 months before the beginning of the school. The projections and the studies that we did showed that the next 5 years, we only need 6 days.
Okay.
Instead of 2 days per year, 10 days for the 5 years, we only need 6 because the holiday falls on a weekend or summer recess or this and that. So it's really integrating flawlessly within the system.
Tell us about the coalition that you're part of, that you're leading, and how difficult was it to get to this point? Tell us more about the coalition first.
What an amazing example, and that's not my word. Our work is being taught in organizing schools around the country as example of a successful coalition. So we started on when the state mandated a statewide exam on Eid al-Adha, which was January 10th, 2006. So Muslim families were dumbfounded. Now what do? Do we sacrifice the education of the children because of the holiday, or we sacrifice the holiday for the education? It was a very bad situation. And when we learned about that, there was a press conference the following day, and then the coalition started a few months after. We have over 90 organizations, civil liberties, religious, civic, and labor organizations, including 32BJ and UFT, are members of the coalition. We had a wide support from everybody in the city and the state. We went to the mayor, Bloomberg at the time, and it wasn't flowing
He
yet.
wasn't too receptive to the idea, was it? Because I remember him saying he brought the point about the expanding the school year because of another holiday.
Which is actually not accurate, because the state mandates 180 days of school days. So there is a cushion within the calendar to play with it, and we showed them, we presented paperwork to show how you will implement, including exact dates for when the schools would close for Muslim holidays. When we tried to convince him, and we actually met with Mayor Bloomberg in his office on May 13, 2010, and we asked him, I mean, everybody is in support of this. Here's the paperwork. It flows easily, and he refused.
And then de Blasio, during the campaign, he has publicly said that he would support such, and he did.
Not only de Blasio, but every candidate for office, for mayor, Republican, Democrat, and Independent, said that they would add it to the holiday, which shows we switched gear and we said, okay, let's focus on electing a mayor that would actually do it. So from our organizing, every candidate said that they would add it. So it's not a partisan thing, it's not a religious thing, it's a common sense thing.
Well, all right. Congratulations on your campaign, and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
Hisham El-Meligy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
When we come back, the Korean cultural sensation that's taking the city by storm. Finally from us, K-pop, a musical genre from South Korea, was made popular in the U.S. by Psy's song Gangnam Style. Its 1.8 billion views made it the most watched video in YouTube's history. Now, more New Yorkers want in on the trend and are trying to copy some of the singer's funky moves. Sarah Pizon spoke to Moonju Choi, the director of I Love Dance, a K-pop dance studio, and one of her students, DJ McIver, about the genre's growing popularity and the diverse group of students it attracts.
MJ, DJ, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So MJ, tell us exactly, what is K-pop?
So it's a Korean pop music. It's more like hip-hop dance, but we're dancing to Korean pop music. That's what K-pop dance is.
Okay, and so what is the cultural significance around it?
People are from everywhere. Like right now in my class, we have a lot of Korean people, obviously. But actually, surprisingly, I have more of non-Korean people who's taking my K-pop classes. So it's like for everyone at the moment.
Yeah, DJ, tell us, how did you get into K-pop?
For me, I think it was like a gradual process, just from when I was little, playing video games, like, oh, these are from Japan. And then my dad watched a lot of kung fu movies. It's like, oh, that's from China. And then I started watching anime. And then my brother started watching Korean dramas. And he tried to get me to watch them. I didn't want to, but I did get into the music. And so it started there for me. And so when I started taking the classes, it was all because I was in love with this one group. And I knew that they were teaching the classes. I was like, I have to go there. No matter what, I have to go.
Is that like a similar story that you hear from other of your students?
Yes, actually, it's pretty much similar. They get into like one music or song or the artist. They fall in love with it, and then they start like taking classes, and they get to know more about K-pop culture, and then now they're just in it.
Is that what drove you to want to create a studio here in New York? Like, what pushed you?
Not actually. In the beginning, I just started as a like beginner's hip hop class, and then the K-pop was slowly growing, and I had a lot of people who wanted to learn K-pop dance as well. So that's how I actually started. And then at the moment, K-pop became our major dance classes. Yeah.
And so how do you teach? Like, tell us, how do you teach K-pop?
So it became a trend. All the artists, they actually put up their dance practice video on the YouTube. So their fans can actually go to YouTube and learn themselves. So what I do is I look up the video, and obviously I ask my students see what they want to learn for this month. And then I look at the video, I copy the dance, and I start teaching them. So it's basically we're learning from actually original artists their choreography video.
And how most of the students are they doing this purely on like a fitness level?
For like a lot of people, going to the gym is a terrible thing, and you go there and you can't motivate yourself to go there that day and do anything, let alone do it for the rest of your life. So once I got into the dancing, I was like, all right, this is it. If I just dance for 2 hours a day for the rest of my life, it's really easy, and I don't have to think of it as exercise. So a lot of people maintain their classes, even if they don't really fall in love with the artist, because they are already here and they've already like grown within the class and the family of I Love Dance. They're just like, okay, well, I can do it as fitness, and we have like fitness classes at I Love Dance as well.
Great. And so how much influence do you think that, like, you know, Psy, the Korean singer, how much has that influenced K-pop?
Right. I actually started my K-pop dance class in 2008 or pretty early. But back then when I mentioned K-pop, there wasn't word K-pop. It was like, what do you do? Like, this is Korean music. And not many people knew about it. But after Psy got really, really popular. And now people ask me, oh, so what do you teach? I teach K-pop. Oh, K-pop. He did make a huge difference, like spreading the K-pop culture in America and in the whole world, I guess, yeah.
And so what's next for K-pop now? Like for your classes, like what's in the future for you guys?
Right now, just I'm concentrating on teaching my classes, but I took this to a next level, actually. People come in as a just pure K-pop fan in the beginning. And then it became their maybe way to exercise, keep them fit. And then afterward, they actually, generally, they love dancing. They're interested in different type of dance as well. That's the reason why we're learning popping, breaking, and it's not only K-pop, it actually became more general. So I do want to create more opportunity for my students to perform as like professionals. So we do actually hold annual showcase each year. So what we do is we learn a bunch of K-pop dance along with hip hop and all other different type of dance. And around springtime, we put up a big show. So that's actually that gives us opportunity to work something together, not just learning the choreography and this not going anywhere. We have a goal to it's a production. So like we rehearse, we prepare for the show, we dress up like stars. So I want to just kind of have a more opportunity for us to complete our work and put up a good show.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
This year, MJ's Dance Showcase will be held at the Theater of the Riverside Church in Harlem on June 6th. That's our show this week. Thanks for staying tuned. Till next time, be independent-minded.